Hi, I'm in our lab and we're going to go through some picture adjustments that you can do at home. It really just take a few minutes, and it can a lot of times give you quite a bit better picture than the way your TV is set when you take it out of the box. So today I'm going to show you the picture adjustments on Sony's HX750 series TV. So once you've unboxed the TV and you've plugged it in and got a picture on the screen, the very first setup screen that you'll see is this one, which asks you to choose either home or retail. And the retail setting is for a store, and it really cranks up the brightness and contrast. So if you happen to have a situation where you need that, like the TV is in a really bright room, or if it's going to be in a restaurant, you might want that selection, but otherwise you would just select the home selection. So it's pretty common with current TVs to have a lot of automatic correction and enhancements settings built in. For example, most TVs have a light sensing eye built into it, and the feature is called light sensor or something like that. And what that does is it actually adjusts the picture brightness depending on the room brightness, the light level. So normally I would turn that off because it's one more thing that can be adjusting and kind of changing the picture. But if you're in a room and there are other folks in the room who need to have the light on, maybe the light's being turned on for a while and then turned off, then it's kind of nice to have that on because as the room brightness changes, then the TV's brightness will adjust. Okay, so here's the main picture setting menu, and what I do is get a high quality source that I'm pretty familiar with, like a Blu-ray movie. So the first big decision to make is which picture mode to go with. And each picture mode is kind of a preloaded group of settings. So once you select your picture mode, then you can still go in and make individual adjustments on each one. So out of the box, most TVs are going to come set to the standard mode, which is kind of a medium mode, medium brightness. So we'll select that. And then the other options are vivid, which really kind of cranks up the brightness and contrast. And then a custom, which on this Sony TV, that's their recommended mode for movies. So we'll select that. So right out of the box, most flat panel TVs can be a little bright, especially if you watch in a room with low or dim light, which is what I usually do. So I'll usually start by backing off the backlight on an LCD TV a little bit. So it was at 5, and I'm going to just take it down a little bit. And the picture setting is also called contrast, and so you can see that it's all the way up at max. Again, that's pretty strong if you're watching in dim or lower light. So again, I might back that off just a little bit. Brightness, I'm going to leave at 50 and just kind of get used to that, see how that looks. And then usually your color settings are pretty right on, right out of the box. So I usually don't make any changes to the color settings until I have like a calibration disc to really get accurate colors. There are different color temperature settings which adjust the temperature of gray. And if you have a cool setting, that means it's toward the blue side. If you have a warm setting, it's toward the red side of neutral. So there's a neutral setting here, and then there's also cool, and then there's a couple of different warm settings. And for most Sony TVs, the recommended setting is generally warm 2. Now for sharpness, for most high definition video sources, you probably don't need any sharpness at all, or maybe just a little bit. If you have a video source that's standard definition only, you might want to add some sharpness to it. But if you have too much sharpness, it can sometimes create halos around the edges of images or kind of make people look like cardboard cutouts. So I generally won't have the sharpness set any higher than maybe 20. And then here's where we get to a lot of the automatic correction or enhancement settings. Noise reduction is really designed to improve the look of standard definition or kind of poorer quality signals. So I'll generally leave those off. MPEG noise reduction is specifically for digital video sources like satellite TV. Turn that off. Motion flow is Sony's name for their de-judder or motion smoothing circuit. And on that one, it will depend on what you're watching. For sports, you might want to turn it on, but for movies, you might want to leave it off because sometimes it's this kind of motion or smoothing control that can cause that soap opera effect when you're watching movies. And then there are a whole bunch of advanced settings that generally involve more precise color settings. And this is also where you find some of your auto correction and enhancements. And again, I would just leave most or all of these off. And remember, when you buy a TV from Crutchfield, you get free lifetime tech support. So if you're having any trouble with the TV's picture settings, you can call up one of our tech advisors and they can answer your questions.